Hello folks, Jim here to talk about the Aegis Hammerhead, but as with the Hawk, I've been unable to do a concept video on the Hammerhead, so I'll cover it quickly as I can right here. First, some lore. The Hammerhead was originally a tool of conquest requested for and designed by the favorite ship manufacturer of a long line of fascist war criminals, the Messers. If you want to know more about the beginning of the Messer era, visit your local library, or check out Star Citizen Space Hitler in the Citizen Files playlist of your local Gaming with Jim YouTube channel. As a tool of conquest designed for a family of conquesting tools, the Hammerhead kicks like a mule, or rather like 6 packs of mules that have been stapled together in groups of 4 and arranged for maximum coverage. This ship is a platform for guns. Everything about it is designed to man guns, power guns, or move guns from one place to another. Any other purposes that any part of this ship may serve are incidental. The Hammerhead is flying guns. It is supposedly fast and agile relative to its size, which means it's not fast when compared with a Super Hornet, but it is when compared with a lumbering tanker like the Starfarer. If that doesn't sound threatening to you from the cockpit of your Saber or Super Hornet, think of it like a crocodile ambling around your home. You can probably outrun it, but you'll also stay out of its way. And you certainly won't put the kids out to play till it's gone. Basically, it owns almost any space it occupies. You'd need something like an elephant to counter it, or you'd have to kill it from a distance before you can feel safe. The purpose of the Hammerhead is to counter fighters, but you can also safely assume that it will handily wreck the face of any medium or heavy ship that comes within range of its guns. So, for most of the ships in the game, the Hammerhead is a roaming zone of exclusion. The proposed loadout at the time of the concept sale is 6 turrets, each with 4 size 4 weapons, and a boatload of size 3 missiles. To give you an idea of what this means size-wise, the standard unit of measurement for missiles and torpedoes in Star Citizen is the Shaquille O'Neal. Size 3 missiles are about 1 Shaquille O'Neal, while the torpedoes on the Retaliator, considered to be the ideal counter for the defenses of the Hammerhead, are approximately 7 Shaquille O'Neals. Meanwhile, each of the 4 guns on each of the 6 turrets is reasonably massive. Here is a visual comparison of one of those guns next to a human male, though not actually Shaquille O'Neal. To put the total firepower of the Hammerhead into perspective, it would take about 4 Starfarer Geminis, including all 5 turrets and the optional missile rack, to equal a single Hammerhead. Since I don't happen to have either the budget or the technical know-how to staple 4 Geminis together, we'll have to settle for watching what a single Gemini can do and multiplying that by 4. First, let's take a look at one of the toughest fighters in the game, the Super Hornet. I've taken these on in everything from a Merlin to, well, every flyable fighter in the game except the Raven. Typically, I like fighting Super Hornets because they're tough but easy to hit. In my Mustang Delta or Buccaneer, fights with Super Hornets would go one of about 3 ways. Either I'm blown up before I know it's there, or I dodge like a madman and shoot the thing for 5 solid minutes until it eventually kills me, or I dodge like a madman and shoot the thing for 5 solid minutes until I eventually kill it. Some Super Hornet pilots even choose to sit still in combat, simply using their ship as a mobile turret, confident that they'll survive long enough to land the 1 or 2 hits on a pesky Buccaneer buzzing in their ear. Even then, it still takes me whole minutes to blow one up while avoiding fire. Let me be clear. Sitting still will not be a valid strategy when taking on a Hammerhead. In that scenario, the Super Hornet is the pesky insect. Let's see what happens when the main guns on my Gemini, equal in firepower to a single Hammerhead turret, take on a stationary Super Hornet. And it takes about 2 seconds, then pop goes the Super Hornet. Fortunately for Hornet pilots, the Gemini is lumbering, and it has a huge blind spot to be exploited. The pilot can easily fly circles around the massive fuel tanker until the shields drop, the armor burns away, and the meaty core of the ship is exposed to vacuum. But the Hammerhead has no blind spots. No matter where the pilot positions the Hornet, there will be at least 1 Hammerhead turret covering the area. More likely, there will be 3 or more. And if all 3 turrets that are facing the Hornet simultaneously hit, that Hornet is gone, probably before the pilot even registers the flashes from the guns. This will not be a 5-minute fight. And if the Hornet decides to sit outside of gun range and lob missiles at the Hammerhead, even a single missile from the Hammerhead is enough to put some serious hurt on the Super Hornet. 2 missiles will put its lights out for good. The Hammerhead is intended to have 32 size 3 missiles, and if you feel like keeping the Hornet busy instead of obliterating it outright, you may be able to swap those out for 64 size 2 or 128 size 1 missiles that will keep the Hornet hopping until it runs out of countermeasures. Now, if you're anything like me, you will eventually realize that a Super Hornet is tough for a fighter, but you start to wonder how a bigger ship, like, say, a Constellation, will fare. You're in luck. Once you're in range, your Constellation will last about 8 seconds against a single turret. If 3 turrets get a beat on you, that gives you less than 3 seconds to get out of range. And while some folks think it's foolish to put the front turrets directly ahead of the rear turrets, blocking the field of fire, you can see in this picture that a slight tilt of the ship is all that's required to bring 5 turrets to bear. You might survive a single volley. Don't expect to live through a second. And if you're outside of gun range in your Constellation, a single rack of missiles will also put you down, maybe only half a rack. I think that pretty much covers the guns and missiles, but there is one other weapon we need to have a look at. In the Q&A, we learned that the head of the Hammerhead has been reinforced just in case some lunatic decides to attempt to ram an opponent. I don't have a Hammerhead, so we'll have to see how my Starfarer fares against the Constellation. Didn't even smudge the paint. Now, I'm sure that's not right, but it was definitely fun. And that's all I have for the Hammerhead today. But before I go, we need to make a quick correction from my previous video, How Hard Does the Hawk Hit? In that video, I said the Hawk was designed to be a bounty hunting ship. That is incorrect. It was designed for the military to be a hard-hitting, close-range dogfighter and ground assault specialist, all tasks that are well suited to hunting and disabling bounties. It was almost immediately dumped by the military because it turned out that it was only really good at the jobs that it was designed for. Then, immediately after that, it was adopted by bounty hunters because it was designed for tasks that happened to fall nicely in line with the requirements of bounty hunting. It's a little like the military asked for a hammer, but decided they didn't want it because the hammer couldn't also wrench nuts. Then, they tossed it to a bunch of people who were driving and removing nails with hammers that had wrenches glued to the back. Anvil got permission to sell the Hawk to civilians, slapped an EMP and prisoner pod into some very convenient, unutilized, empty parts of the ship, and called it a day. So, the Hawk was not designed for bounty hunters, it just happened to be designed for bounty hunting. Heck of a coincidence if you ask me. And that's all I've got. For real this time. Thanks very much to everybody for watching, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you next time.